about what the Brazil Gateways office does.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you and Caitlin for putting this event together. Thank you so much, Rodolfo, for being here, for your time. It's so good to see you again. The Brazil Gateway and some Ohio State leadership visited Curitiba last February. I think it was the last trip that they did. It was the last time we had big meetings. So it's so nice to see you again. So yeah, I'm the director at the Ohio State Brazil Gateway. It's located in São Paulo. Our office was established in 2014, following the China Gateway that was established in 2010 and the India Gateway in 2012. Our office focuses on 4 key areas, which are students, alumni, research, and partnership. I will give you a very quick overview of these areas, just in case you feel we might be helpful in any of them, so you can reach out to us. Within the student area, we help Ohio State students come to Brazil for education abroad opportunities, for internship opportunities, cultural and educational programs that they are looking for. But we also help Brazilians go to Ohio State to do their pursue their undergrad, graduate, or professional degrees, or do research. In the alumni area, we have a database of 1,300 alumni and friends. So we call them and friends because we also add folks who went to Ohio State as visiting scholars or to do an internship for short term, but they do feel like Buckeyes. So we have this group that we try to keep together here in Brazil through events and other programs that we have. In the research area, we try to connect Ohio State faculty with Brazilian faculty in universities so they can apply for grants, do research together. Thinking of Curitiba, the city that Rodolfo represents, we have a very long-term connection with the Federal University of Paraná. And then the last area I mentioned is partnerships. So we try to connect Ohio State not only with universities, but also nonprofits, companies, and government offices, so we can put programming together, such as executive education, sponsored research, or events like this, for example. So if you need anything from our office, please reach out. I will share with you in the chat now the email that you can write to, and also our social media, where we post events, opportunities within campus related to Brazil or here in Brazil. That's it. So thank you again for the opportunity, and can't wait to hear Rodolfo's presentation.
Thank you, Jane, for that overview of the Brazil Gateways. We're so fortunate here at Ohio State to have such strong partnerships with the country of Brazil through the gateways that Jane leads. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest for today, Mr. Rodolpho Feijo, who is the head of foreign affairs at the City of Curitiba in Brazil. He has a master's degree in public policy and human development from the United Nations University, with a specialization in multi-level governance and regional integration. After graduating in Maastricht, the Netherlands, he started to work as regional coordinator of the United Nations Global Compact Cities program in southern Brazil. Rodolfo holds a BA in social communication and a BS in audio engineering, the latter from Future Works School of Media in England. So without further ado, Rodolfo, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Caitlin. First of all, thank you for this invitation. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to have the opportunity to talk with students from the Ohio State University. I have been myself to Columbus in 2017 because Columbus is a sister city of Curitiba. We have Curitiba has a sister city agreement with the city of Columbus, and I was invited to visit Columbus and participate on the Columbus Marathon, and it was a really amazing experience, and I had a really great time. I have met so many interesting and amazing people, and we have a really great community there. It's a really vibrant city, Columbus, and I see a lot of similarities with the city of Curitiba. And I had a really great experience visiting Columbus, and also I visited the Ohio State University, and you should be really proud of the university that you have available to you, because it's really impressive and amazing. So thank you very much again for this invitation. I'll just make a very brief presentation about the city of Curitiba, and I'll start with some technical information about the city, about our urban planning process, and then I'll go to the more exciting stuff, in my opinion, which is the projects that we are currently working on here in the city, and then we can go on to Q&A, where Caitlin will moderate some questions from all the students and the participants, and I'm really looking forward to have this interesting dialogue with you all. So I'll just share my screen here, and I'll try to see if PowerPoint is happy with me today. Let's have a look. 1 second. I'm not finding the file now on the PowerPoint, which is open, so let me just have a look. Here we go. Yeah, you can see the screen now, right? So yeah, that's the presentation I'm gonna do for you today about the city of Curitiba, and I'm really happy to be here talking with you all. So looking at Curitiba, first of all, I'm really excited that you are here today, because that indicates that you are interested about the city of Curitiba. And although we are not very well known in the international level, there's a lot of things that we can share with you about success stories, especially about urban development and urban solutions. And I'm really happy that you're interested in Curitiba and our urban planning process. So on the top left-hand side, you can see our current mayor. He is the third time that he is mayor of Curitiba. He has been elected 3 times. And that also gives us a good indication about the importance of urban development and urban planning for Curitiba, because Mayor Rafael Greca is a career employee of the Institute of Research and Urban Planning of Curitiba. So he's from a school of urban planners and architects as well, that have been governing the city basically for the last 60 years. So you'll see in my presentation that the success of Curitiba as an intelligent and smart city is the result of a continuous work from this mayor and all the previous mayors over the past 60 years, and they all respect and appreciate the importance of urban planning to cities. So that's why Curitiba is a success story for smart cities and in urban development in Brazil, but also throughout the world. So we have an area of 432 square kilometers, and our total population now, just in Curitiba, is about 1.7 million inhabitants, with a total counting with the metropolitan region, which you can see in the lower right-hand side. That includes all the other cities that are part of our metropolitan region. That's sums up to a total of 3.2 million inhabitants. And you can see the growth rates of Curitiba since the 70s. So the 70s and 80s, we had a growth rate of 5.34% a year, which is a lot for a city. That is good, but it also represents a lot of challenges to the city to have such a big increase in population in short time, right? And then nowadays our growth rate is about 1.5% a year, so it's basically stabilized. Our annual budget in 2017 was $2.6 billion, and our GDP in 2016 was $30 billion. So that represents a lot for in terms of the country, in terms of Brazil. We're the 5th largest GDP in Brazil. And you can see in the map where Curitiba is located. You can see in gray the Paraná state. We are the capital of the Paraná state, and we're located strategically within the Mercosur area. So Mercosur is the regional integration agreement of Brazil with the neighboring countries of Paraguay, Argentina, and many others. And we're strategically located just 40 minutes by flight from São Paulo, and also we're in between São Paulo and Buenos Aires, which makes it perfect for us to integrate with the entire region. Now, this is what I was talking about, is the urban growth evolution throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s. And you can see how in 1955, on the dark red area, how the city was populated, and nowadays in the light yellow areas where the population is. And you can see there has been a huge increase in population since 1955, and that means that we had to deal with a whole range of problems and a whole range of issues that we have to solve. And that also relates to the part that was mentioned about the metropolitan region, where we now have to deal with the problems not only of our city, but also from the neighboring cities that integrate the Curitiba's metropolitan region. So we have to provide services, transportation, we have to integrate our transport system to theirs, and that means that urban planning is just pivotal if we want to have life quality in Curitiba. And that's what has been done over the past decades. Now, this map was elaborated by IPUC, which is the Institute of Research and Urban Planning of Curitiba. And I really encourage you to look in the internet about the work of IPUC, because some of the greatest urban planners of Brazil have been working there for the past decades. And they made this map, and you can see this is the city of Curitiba, and how it integrates with the lines that represent the transport system of Curitiba, and the green areas that represents the environmental protection areas of the city. And what on the right hand side, you can see also the airport, which is located just outside the city. But I think this map really represents how Curitiba is integrated across different areas of its territory. And on the lines, you can see the different transport connection points, and we are one of the cities where, or one of the capitals in Brazil, where traffic is not as bad as it could be, and we're really proud of what we have achieved in terms of transport in our city, and I'll mention it on the next slides as well. So I'll make available also my presentation afterwards, where you can have a look in this map and see the captions in detail. Now, basically, this model represents our development model, really, because it all starts with the guidelines set by our master plan, and we connect the different priorities of the city and make it circular, and we make it as a cycle. So basically, it all starts with our guidelines from the master plan that are set by IPUC, the Institute of Research in Urban Planning, and then this plan is approved by the city councilors. We have 32 city councilors in Curitiba, and the guidelines of the master plan, they directly connect to urban mobility, right? So here we can see the importance of transportation for the city, because we're talking about the city that has a really big number of inhabitants in not such a big area. And we're talking about the city that has been developing so much in terms of population, in terms of increase of population over the past decades, that transport is just a pivotal issue for life quality in Curitiba. Now we have electromobility, we have car sharing now, we have bike model, and then it all connects to environmental development. And for us, environmental preservation is a really important issue in the city. And then we connect environment to terms of risk management, preservation incentives, public reserves, and to waste reduction. And waste management also a very important point that I'll mention in the next slides. And then from the environmental development, we connect it to urban occupation. And then you can see, for example, now items such as LED lighting and green buildings, which in terms of Brazil, apart from São Paulo and Rio, it's quite innovative and new. Especially when you're looking to the entire territory of the city. And although LED lighting cannot sound as innovative as it is, for us here, for making available for our population is a huge step, and we're really proud of it. It also represents a lot of public saving public money, and we're really proud of these achievements. And then everything connects with our smart city strategy, right? Where we provide big incentives for research and innovation, and we're trying to make Curitiba a hub for innovation through entrepreneurship, but also to the creation of knowledge, because we have here in Curitiba a process of brain drain to São Paulo, which is the biggest industrial center of Brazil. We want our talents to be here in Curitiba and stay here, and that's part of our long-term plan to create this community of knowledge and this community of innovative thinkers. And then by looking into our planning model, we can see what our challenges and our priorities are nowadays. So first of all, our biggest challenge now is to mobilize various segments of society to agree on goals and to build a common agenda for Curitiba. So we want to bring all institutions on board, and so that we can have a sense of belonging of all the institutions from Curitiba in our development process. Then we have to restructure the city's economic matrix to be based on a low carbon economy. We have to develop the concept of a resilient city, or a city that is prepared for quick responses to the impacts of climate change. Because as you can see just below in this picture, we have, and I'll show you in the map later, we have a lot of rivers in Curitiba, and it rains a lot here. So we're directly impacted by the effects of climate change. So we have to prepare for the future, because we're already starting to see some of the consequences of climate change in the lives of our citizens. There's a lot of flooding events that have been happening throughout the past years, and studies show that these are directly related to global warming and climate change. So this is a big thing for our planning in the future. And then we have to make the transition from a city that innovated in the past to a city that is innovative nowadays. So Curitiba innovated a lot in the 70s and 80s. We created the bus rapid transit system, and I'll mention it later. But we want to be a city that not only innovated in the past, but we want to keep innovating for the future. And then we have to achieve economies of scale for solutions to implement our objectives. Now, this is the system that I was talking about. This is the bus rapid transit system. It was created in Curitiba in 1973 with at the Institute of Research in Urban Planning, IPUC, and that also resulted in a Volvo factory to be installed here in Curitiba. So Volvo came to produce the buses for this innovative system, which is now present in more than 250 cities in the world. So it was created here in Curitiba, and Curitiba got really known internationally for creating the BRT system. You might have it in some cities in the US as well. And the bus rapid transit system resulted in a strategy of TOD, which is transport-oriented development in Curitiba. So you can see on the top how the city was in 1974, in the top left, and on the top right, how the city basically is now, and the picture was taken in 2010, how the same place changed and how the city structure changed according to the rules of transport-oriented development. And on the picture below, you can see how the system is implemented. In the center, you have the bus lanes, and the bus lanes are also next to normal streets for cars, right? And then you can see on the left of the bus lane, on the left, on the right of the bus lanes, you can see which what we call the slow lanes, where cars have really limited speed. They can only drive to a certain speed because this is an area of high density of population. And then you can see the buildings, right? So you can see how the biggest concentration of people have the biggest availability of urban transport as well. And this was all think and developed by the Institute of Research and Urban Planning. So you have the ZR4, ZR3, which is the zones 4, 3, 2, and 1, where the density of population decreases according to the distance of the transport system which is available to them. And now we're investing a lot in biking, right? So you can see in the red lines in the map, which is the existing bike routes now in the city, which is 208 kilometers. And in the blue lines in the map, you can see the projection for the future. We'll basically double it in the next 6 years. And this is already set and approved by our city council. And honestly, we hope we will have the resources to make it. I'm sure we will, but yeah, cities in Brazil are facing huge economic challenges because obviously the country is not growing as it used to grow in the past decade. So cities are being hit the most with the economic crisis, and now COVID came, and gladly Curitiba is doing quite well according to the other cities, to the city ranking of economic performance in Brazil. But yeah, this is just a small parenthesis that I made. But yeah, we'll get there. We'll increase the bike lanes and bike routes in Curitiba, and we'll double it basically in 6 years. Now, to know Curitiba and to understand Curitiba, you also have to understand the importance of this man in the picture, which is Jaimelern. And he was mayor for Curitiba 3 times. And he was also a governor for Curitiba, and he was the president of the International Architects Association, which is based in Paris. And he made a really made a big revolution in Curitiba in terms of urban planning, and I really encourage you to get to know his work, and some of you might know already, because he developed also some really interesting concepts in urban development and smart cities, which is the concept of urban acupuncture, and I'll mention it in an example in the next slides as well. So Jaimelern was a really important figure for Curitiba, and still is. He's still alive. He's I think 85 now, and he also still participates in some congresses about smart cities and urban development. We're really proud that Jaimelern was one of our founding fathers in urban development in Curitiba, let's say. Right. So, but just finishing with the technical details, this on the right-hand side, you can see one center of the decentralized and administration centers that we have in Curitiba. So basically, we have 10 of them. Basically, they are, we call sub-prefectures. So subprefeitura, which is a division of the city in 10 areas, and each one of them, each of the centers is responsible for providing services for these areas. So we have 10 of them in Curitiba, and that means that the citizen does not have to come to our main building in the city center to have access to the city services. For example, paying taxes or negotiating debts, for example, or just having access to some documents. We have everything distributed in 10 different areas of Curitiba, and that also was a big improvement in the 90s, and it's been proven useful still nowadays, but also these are being substituted by a lot of digital services, and that is also, but these centers are still really useful for Curitiba. Now here we have a map of green areas and parks in Curitiba. Parks are really important to us. We have one of the highest green areas per inhabitant among capitals in Brazil. We have 30 different parks, and we keep creating new parks and new green areas because that also relates to the concept of well-being and life quality that we want to introduce in Curitiba for the future. And here I start the part of the presentation where I start talking about the projects that we're really currently working on in Curitiba. Now, I lived abroad. I lived outside Brazil for 7 years, and I studied diplomacy and international development and negotiation, especially at the United Nations University. And when I came back to Brazil, I was imagining what kind of problems and issues and issues that I was going to face here in Brazil again after 10 years. And I had a really different picture of what I studied in my master course and what I studied in my negotiation classes and diplomacy classes, because you can see in the picture now what are the real challenges of developing countries, which are vulnerable communities. And we have them here in Curitiba as well, although we're a really developed city in Brazil. We also have these areas, and normally they are located close to rivers because that's where it's not allowed for constructions and houses to be built. And these are all people that just build their houses there because they had, you know, just nowhere else to go. And these areas, it's it's impressive how quickly they can form, and how quickly they can appear, and they can be implemented in a city landscape. And this was created in basically 3 years or 4 years. And if the city hall does not make really quick interventions in terms of social justice, and in terms of providing access and reducing inequality, these areas, they tend to appear very quickly in cities in developing countries. And this is a community which is called Kashimba, right? This community formed in the southern area of the city, mainly from people from all over Brazil that came to work in a nearby company, which was Petrobras. The company is still there, and people from all over the world, they came to look for jobs, and there was not enough jobs for everyone. And then this area, that's how it is nowadays. Now the city is currently working on this project. This is how it looks today, and that's how we want it to look like in the future. We have this big project. It's called the Kashimba Community Project, and basically we're having a lot of international financing and investments in this area. We're working closely with the French Agency of Development, and we're also working in this project and making it linkable to climate, the climate challenges that the city will be facing. So making these big interventions, these are huge challenges, and we want to make sure that the cities, the city has the citizen at the center of the technological process of urban development. And this is a landfill that is located just outside, just near the Kashimba community. This was a landfill that is now, it does not look exactly like this nowadays, but that's how it looked a few years back. And this was a landfill with waste from the entire city of Curitiba, and is really close to that community, and that creates a lot of challenges for the community and the families living nearby. And this is how it's going to look like probably at the end of 2022. So we want to build there what we're calling a solar pyramid. Basically, we're investing a lot in solar panels in the city, and that area now will be covered with solar panels that will feed the new Kashimba community, and this energy, the energy created there, will basically feed the entire community with energy. And also, we're looking into the solar revolution through social housing. We're investing in a lot of solar panels in our social housing on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you can see the solar panels that have just been installed 1 year ago at the City Hall building. Now, it's again, it might sound like that is not as innovative as we think it is, but especially if you think, for example, that at the White House building in Washington, you had solar panels installed, I think, back in 1978, and it arrived here in our city hall just in 2019. So that, as amazing as it sounds, it was a huge development for us. Now, our vulnerability report shows that we're going to have a lot of challenges regarding rain in our city. On the right-hand side, you can see all the rivers of the city. We have so many rivers, and that means that if it rains a lot because of climate change, we're going to have a lot of problems with floodings, and we're trying to build our system of prevention of floods and our resilience system. And if it rains a lot, and we're thinking that it will rain more and more intensively in just shorter periods of time, we're going to have lots of problems also with diseases spread by mosquitoes that will reproduce faster with more water available for their reproduction. They will um, they will have more eggs, and there will be a huge number of mosquitoes here in the city if it rains more. So we're increasing our resilience to longer and heavy rains that are being expected in the city now. So okay, so what we're trying to do here in Curitiba is a process of innovation and smart cities that is not only limited to the inhabitants of the most privileged areas. We want to make it, we want to make innovation available for all our population, including those in the most vulnerable areas. That's the main challenge now, because we can definitely make an innovation project to um, flourish in our city center, but how to get to those that are living in vulnerable areas. That's part of our mission here at the city hall, and that's what our planning is guiding us through. So we're on the left hand side, you can see what is called a lighthouse of knowledge. It was created in the 1990s, and we have around 40 of them spread out to Curitiba, throughout Curitiba. These were the first public land houses of Brazil. We were the first. We Curitiba was the first city to make internet available for citizens in Brazil. Right? They have free access to internet, and that also revolutionized the lives of so many. Now we're changing the project, and we want to call it the Lighthouse of Knowledge and Innovation. And on the right-hand side, you can see Work Chiba, which is a co-working space, and is also the first public co-working of Brazil. And we want to make it available to the highest number of people in our city. And this is a really good example of successful innovation for us. These are students that are inside a lighthouse of knowledge and innovation, and they have access to 3D printing, and they can build up models to problems of their communities. So one of these students built a 3D printing model that prevented ants to ruin small trees. So we're also connecting innovation to the real life problems of students and for our communities, and that's what we want to achieve and hope to achieve in the long term. That we create we don't only have technology, but we, and not only innovation, but innovative minds, and that's our main asset. This is the main asset of Curitiba for now and for the future. So we're creating here the Pinheiro Valley, which obviously is just some. We were inspired in the Silicon Valley, and we created here in Curitiba this ecosystem of innovation that involved universities and entrepreneurs, and we want to bring everyone together in one single innovation project. And this is directly related to the use of territory in the city. So we created this special area in the city where innovation fosters, and then it can spread out throughout the entire territory. And this was a very degraded area of the city. This was an old factory that the city bought and acquired all these buildings, and now we are remodeling and hosting startup companies and fintechs, and we're really starting to see the results of this strategy. Curitiba, for example, just recently got another unicorn company from Curitiba, so we have two in Curitiba. Is It's the only two in South Brazil that so we have 3 states in South Brazil. Curitiba has 2 unicorns, and that means a lot to us as well. Now, again, this is also urban intelligence and smart cities for us. This is what we call the urban farms. This is just a recently inaugurated urban farm that we are using now not only to provide food security for around 20,000 people that benefit exclusively from this urban farm, but it also brings back a sense of belonging to citizens. For example, this lady on the right hand side, she came from a very distant city in the Paraná state, and she came to Curitiba, and she still preserves their own culture of farming, and we're making it available now that she gets connected to the land, and that makes us really proud to see these citizens motivated again, and they have their sense of belonging increased by just growing vegetables and all sorts of food that will help also in our food security policies. This is part of our strategy as well for getting back the sense of belonging of the city. So we had a lot of problems with graffiti, especially, for example, in this old traditional church. And we have a project now of just giving it paint and making it available that graffiti is not, just being painted in these spaces, but also in other spaces provided by the city, and we just quickly clean graffiti, and the city has to be really quick, otherwise urban areas get degraded really quickly. We're also making the transition to the digital area. We're providing services throughout apps, and for example, this app is called Saúde Já, which means health now. Is a good example of this, because this decreased the queues, the lines in hospitals and emergency centers, and also with doctors' appointments. So people now can make their appointments in an app, and that decreased the time of people in lines. And obviously, when you're talking about developing city as in a developing country context, as Curitiba is inserted in, there's a lot of problems on providing health, and there's a lot of demand as well. So we're connecting, and we're trying to improve life quality of our citizens throughout innovation projects and throughout technology. Again, technology is not the main focus of the city. What we are focused on is on providing life quality and well-being to our citizens. We host here annually in Curitiba the Smart City Expo Curitiba, which is the biggest innovation event in Brazil, and it happens also in LA and in Barcelona yearly as well. Is the biggest innovation in smart cities event in the world in Barcelona. We host the Brazilian edition of this event, and we also deal with issues relating city planning and urban development and smart cities, and we debate the real issues of citizens, and when we try to find solutions for these problems. And in 2020, Curitiba was elected a WellBeing city by at the WellBeing Cities Award in Montreal. And we were really proud of this achievement, because it reflects what a smart city is for us. The concept of well-being is what we're trying to implement here in Curitiba. And as Mayor Rafael Greca said, well-being is not an end in itself, but a means to promote human development. Now is the time to transform aspirations into policies that can make real change. Well-being is a process and everyone can be part of it. And we were elected a well-being city in the building of urban economy category. And this reflects also what our vision for the future is providing well-being and life quality to the citizens and use technology for this end. We don't want to just have really good technology if the city are not integrated, if our city officials are not really integrated and have their visions on the long-term strategy of providing life quality to our citizens. And that means that we have huge challenges coming ahead. The world is changing really quickly. And we try to integrate Curitiba with the rest of the world and provide solutions that are not only really advanced in technology, but solutions that can improve life quality as well. So I think that's it for the presentation. And in order that we can have more interaction, perhaps we can open to Q&As. And well, thank you very much for all the time and attention. And I hope to answer your questions now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rodolfo. That was great. So I know you had mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that Columbus is a sister city of Curitiba. So could you sort of explain to the audience, like briefly, what that is? I know Jane sent a link in the chat, but could you sort of give an overview of what that means?
Yeah. So the concept of sister cities was invented, I think, in the US in the 50s. I think it was Roosevelt that created this concept. It relates to the concept of citizens diplomacy. And this is really interesting because it means that not only city officials or diplomats can work on improving international relations among countries, but also citizens can be part of this process as well. And Curitiba has 15 sister cities throughout the world that are connected to our mission and vision for the future, but also to our values. And Columbus became a sister city of Curitiba in 2015. And we promote a lot of initiatives with them. For example, we promote an athlete exchange with Columbus, where we send people from Curitiba, and I was one of them, to run in the Columbus Marathon. And we also have people from Columbus to come here in Curitiba and run our city marathon. And we also have strong connections with OSU, and Jane came here to visit us a few times, and we're building these connections throughout citizens and throughout good and interesting initiatives. And there's a lot of good things happening in terms of sister cities and a lot of opportunities as well. And I really encourage everyone to look more for the concept of sister cities, because I know Columbus has really good sister cities as well. I think in Italy, and I think Accra, Ghana is one of Columbus' sister cities as well. So you can really learn a lot from these bridges that are being built between Columbus, Curitiba, and other cities in the world.
Okay. The next question is, do you use any geographic information sciences or systems in your urban planning?
Yeah. So let me just say that I'm not exactly an urban planner. I work with international relations, and there's a really good and cohesive team in Curitiba that does urban planning. It is a really important issue to be addressed. But I do have the knowledge that we're now introducing geographical location platforms and geographical mapping on our policies. For example, we're working on a project now which is called solar mapping, and again it relates to climate change, where we're mapping the areas of the city with where we need to address the most our climate policies, and the areas that we can use more solar panels, for example. So we're just putting solar panels everywhere in Curitiba now. We're putting them in bus terminals, we're putting them in our city buildings, and this concept of solar mapping is being worked at, is being done with the Institute of Research in Urban Planning. And yeah, I know that there are some tools now that really can help us in the urban planning process. And this one specifically addresses climate change.
What would you say some of the common challenges are when you're implementing these new projects?
Yeah, there are lots of problems and challenges, but well, first of all, you have to create engagement from everyone, right? So you have to mobilize, first of all, the city civil servants, city officials, and equip them with knowledge and provide them sense of belonging, and provide professional development and all sorts of process, all sorts of processes that connects 55,000 city civil services with our government strategy, basically. But like here, I've been working in the city since 2017, but we have civil servants that have been working here for 30 years. And I'm working for the mayor, and I'll leave as soon as he leaves office. But we have to integrate policies with our civil servants and equip them with knowledge and tools so they can make the transformation as well. So that's part of our challenge. We have, for example, around 20,000 teachers in the city, and professionals that help with the education process. So integrating them with our vision, that's the initial challenge. Because me, the mayor, we're just like a team that takes office and will leave, but they are the ones that will have the long-term process to be implemented. So making long-term policies, yeah, that is also a big challenge as well. The other challenges basically are economic challenges as well. I was mentioning cities in Brazil are facing huge economic challenges, and before providing smart city tools to them, we have to provide basic services to the population. So we have to provide hospitals, we have to provide education, we have to basically all kinds of basic services for our citizens, and we have to make sure that these are well developed. Then we can implement smart cities strategies and bring gadgets and all sorts of technological tools to increase life quality. So let's say economic problems are also part of the challenges that we're facing now. We also have a huge problem with inequality, basically, and the city has to deal with the consequences of an economic system in Brazil that creates a lot of inequality, and we have to provide them solutions. So fighting inequality is also a big part of our job and our mission. It does not only depends on the city, but it means that we have to deal with the impacts of inequality in the lives of our citizens. So we have to also provide, for example, food security to a relatively a high number of vulnerable communities with homeless populations as well. So the challenges that we face are, for example, very similar to the challenges that a city in Colombia faces, a city, for example, in South Africa, or a city, let's say, in, I don't know, Indonesia. So the challenges of big urban centers, they are similar throughout the world, and they're not different here in Curitiba as well. We have to deal with the consequences of an economic model that unfortunately happens to create a lot of inequality, and we're trying to yeah, fight this problem.
What can other Brazilian cities learn from Curitiba?
Right, so we have been developing a lot of cooperation projects with cities in Brazil and cities across the world, really, on urban planning, basically, and in transport and in smart cities. And basically, the main idea is that it has to be a long-term project. Urban development needs to be a long-term project in their cities. And people come here to learn about our transport model, how we integrate transport with the urban development plan of the city, how we provide less traffic, how we provide these main issues of urban development, and how urban planning can be used to improve life quality of the citizens. So we're building, for example, a cooperation. Last year, we worked on a cooperation model with the city of Santa Cruz de la Sierra in Bolivia. They were looking to implement BRT there. And now we're working with the city of Chuane in South Africa. And they're also looking to solve, for example, a problem of the model of permits for cabs in Chuane. So how we can integrate cabs to the transport system of the city. And they came to us and they want to not replicate the model that we introduced in Curitiba, but they're looking on how the success story of transport in Curitiba can be adapted to their reality. So that's a huge problem of cooperation projects. We cannot just only implement the exact same model that happens in Curitiba. You have to adapt the main concepts to the realities of each city. And the same way that we are inspired, for example, in examples of success urban solutions in Sweden, in the US, but we cannot just bring them exactly as they are to Curitiba. We have to adapt the solution to the local reality. That's something to keep in mind in cooperation projects with other cities as well.
Okay, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A box. So, did you have any other closing remarks before we wrap up?
No, not anything specific, really. Just visit Curitiba and you'll see for yourself. I'll just make some publicity of my city as well. You can visit here. We're friendly, and we also have this marathon here, and just participate on sister cities initiatives from Columbus, and just go to OSU. I think this Gateway initiative is really amazing because it gives the opportunity to people to understand our realities, and it brings other countries and initiatives closer to Columbus and to OSU. And I think that's really great. And this internationalization process, I think, is really enriching for students. And this is the time where students have the opportunity to have the time to think on what are issues that are happening abroad, because when they get into their professional lives, they probably won't have as much as time to think and to reflect on, for example, what happens in Curitiba, right? And what is the transport system, BRT system here in Brazil, and the the professional life is much more demanding and there's not enough time. So just take the time that you have now while a student. And I really miss my student times. Perhaps I'll go back to student life at OSU and study something there so we can keep collaborating.
Yeah, you're always welcome to come visit us here in Columbus. We'd love to have you. But thank you so much, Rodolfo, for your presentation and your time today. It was wonderful. And thank you to our participants for being here. We hope to see you on our next Buckeye Bridge lecture series. Like Aaron said, this is the first of 6. But thank you again. Thank you, Jane, for making the connection, for Rodolfo to be here today. And thanks, Aaron. But thanks again.
Just
Yeah.
one last thing, Caitlin. Feel free to connect with me at LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And I'm really glad to have this connection going, and we can keep this conversation on. If you're interested in some specific topic, I'm available to. On LinkedIn is Rodolpho Feijo, and I'll just write my name in the chat.
Perfect.
And then you can keep this conversation going through social media as well. Thank you again for your invitation, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much.